The Kent School District Board meetings are held in public on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. at the Administration Center in accordance to the Washington State Open Public Meetings Act. Regular meetings include presentations and reports dealing with district operations, as well as time set aside for public comment. Now here are your Kent School District Board of Directors. Welcome to tonight's board meeting.
So good evening. Welcome to our board meeting tonight. Tonight we have a special treat in honor of Music in the Schools Month. Our national anthem tonight will be sung by the Kent Lake Chamber Choir under the direction of Sarah Anderson. So ask you to please stand as we listen to the choir. Thank you. We will also have the honor of hearing the choir again in just a few minutes. So thank you very much. So again, welcome to our meeting tonight. This is a meeting of the public, of the school board, held in the public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We do allow opportunity for public comment later in the agenda. If you would like to address the board, there are cards in the back underneath strategic goals. Please feel free to fill those out and bring them up to the dais at any time. If you wish to speak to an agenda item, please make sure that you note that so that you have the opportunity to speak during that agenda item. At the time you have the opportunity to speak, you will have 3 minutes to address the board. So, Dr. Postle, do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
President Strauss, members of the board and audience, there are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Then we will go ahead and proceed. The first thing we have tonight is actually, we have 2 proclamations. And so the first one is Music in Our Schools Month. Whereas the National Association for Music Education has designated March as Music in Our Schools Month to focus the nation's attention on the need for and benefits of quality music education programs, and whereas Music in Our Schools Month is an annual celebration that engages music educators, students, and communities from around the country in promoting the benefits of high-quality music education programs in schools, and whereas Music in Our Schools Month is a time to highlight the importance of comprehensive sequential music education taught by exemplary music educators, and whereas the study of music contributes to young people's development through heightened skills in listening, reading, self-expression, and creativity, and whereas music education in the schools includes a broad range of type of music and active musical experiences, and whereas the theme for this year is Music Education Orchestrating Success, Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaim the month of March as Music in Our Schools Month. So at this time, I would like to ask Sarah Anderson to please come up and accept this award, this proclamation, and then we'll have the honor of hearing from your choir again. Thank you. And do you want to, I don't think I have a note of what you're going to sing now, so. Yeah. They're going to sing a song called Oh, we traditionally ask our students to say what grade they're in. We know you're all from Kent Lake, so if you just tell us your name and what grade you're in.
I'm Molly, I'm in 11th grade. I'm Caitlin, I'm in 10th grade. I'm Tessa, and I'm in 10th grade. I'm Audrey, and I'm in 10th grade. I'm Cameron, and I'm in 10th grade. I'm Gabby, and I'm in the 11th grade. I'm Leia, I'm in the 11th grade. I'm Melina, I'm in 9th grade.
Great. Thank you. You sang beautifully. Thank you very much. Can we give them another round of applause? Thank you, ladies. You're welcome to stay if you want, but you probably have homework you want to do. But I also at this time would like to recognize, I know we have some other music teachers and those involved in our music program in the audience tonight. If you could please stand and be recognized as well for all your hard work. Thank you. Thank you again. All right. So next on our agenda is we have another proclamation. And so this proclamation reads, whereas classified employees are involved in nearly every aspect of education, maintaining buildings and grounds, preparing and serving meals, keeping school facilities clean and orderly, assisting in the classroom, performing and conducting research activities, providing information technology and media services, administrative support functions, safe transportation, a secure and healthy environment, and many other specialized services. And whereas these dedicated individuals deserve recognition and thanks for the outstanding work they are doing for this state, their communities, and the students enrolled in Washington's public schools and universities, and whereas there are nearly 50,000 classified school employees working with and helping the students in Washington's universities and public schools, and whereas classified school employees are instrumental in the state's responsibility to educate all students, and whereas by supporting the learning environments, classified school employees are crucial partners with professors, teachers, parents, administrators, and school boards in our education system. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 19th through 13th, 2015 as Classified Public School Employee Week in Washington, and I urge all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Signed, February 12th. So if we could please have all of our classified public employees that may be here tonight stand to be recognized. And I believe that Mr. Loftus is saying that he would like a picture.
Yes. That's going to be a question. Do you believe in lots of pictures? And let me encourage you to say no.
Oh, I guess I got to get up and eat.
Was it an instant message? Yeah. Don't you know I was trying to say? Sorry.
Hope that wasn't upside down.
All right. So thank you all for coming and all the work that you do. We are next going on. We have two presentations this evening. And so our first presentation is on the Child Parent Home Program. And I believe Paige Meyer and Rona Pop are going to present the information. And Dr. Del Giudice.
Good evening, President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, and ladies and gentlemen. Several years ago, the staff from the United Way came to talk to Kent School District Management about a wonderful program they're doing called Parent-Child Home, which we admire greatly. We applied for funds to deliver this program in Kent through the Race to the Top grant, the competitive grant process, and we were denied because this program is very costly on a per-child basis. But even that notwithstanding, we thought we would share some information with you because we've had inquiries about the Parent-Child Home Program and other efforts that Kent School District is delivering in the area of early learning for our kids before they begin first grade and kindergarten. And with that, Paige Meyer, Director of Early Learning, and Ms. Rana Pop, Director of Categorical Programs, who both work in this area in district support, will share a short presentation. Ladies.
Good evening, President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, and guests, ladies and gentlemen. Our presentation tonight, the purpose of our presentation is to present current and possible learning programs for the Kent School District in early learning. So currently, in early learning, we have preschool opportunities across the district. We have 2 Title I preschools in Park Orchard and Meridian Elementaries. We have an ECAP program, which is state-funded preschool, in our Kent Valley Early Learning Center. We have 7 ECE developmental preschools across the school district, and within those developmental preschools, we have peer model programs. We have a collaboration for early learning preschool with Kent Youth and Family Services, where we collaborate on recruitment and enrollment to make sure sure that all of our programs are full. We launched a Ready for Kindergarten parent education class this year at 2 schools, Kent Valley and Panther Lake, and one of those classes is offered in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. We also do WA Kids Parent Connection meetings at the beginning of the year with all the kindergarten families, and we do Teaching Strategies Gold, which is the kindergarten entry assessment that is used across the state at 13 schools. We do roundup activities at all of our elementary schools, which are events inviting all of our kindergarten families that are coming in and students that are coming into the district in the following school year in to get to know the school and let us get to know them. And we, this year and last year, launched a universal kindergarten registration campaign starting on the first Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day, and all the roadmap school districts are engaged in this process together. We also offer or are engaged in Summer Kindergarten Jumpstart at 10 elementary schools. This is a kindergarten readiness program at 10 of our elementary schools that are identified by the roadmap region, and we have an early learning webpage that provides extensive information on all of these programs and more. So we have a new possibility for 2015-16, and that is a partnership with United Way Parent-Child Home Program, which has been in existence since 1965, and it is a home visitor program. How it works, there are 3 components. There are in-home visits provided for families and children in their homes twice a week when the children are 2 and 3 years old. The parent coaches are trained and get to know the families and develop very close relationships with them. Those visitors bring educational books and toys to the family, and in the beginning of the week, they teach the family how to use these things, and then in the second visit of the week, they see how it's going. The home visitors are also culturally relevant in terms of the match. So the home visitors usually match the language and cultural background of the family whenever possible. And that paves the way for trust and understanding. So the home visitor program, the Parent-Child Home Program, constitutes half-hour visits 2 times a week over the course of 2 years for a total of 92 visits. And that is prior to the child entering the early learning system, whether it's preschool or kindergarten. And in this possibility, we would share those costs, the cost of the program, with United Way. There is quite a bit of research about the success of Parent-Child Home Program, because as I mentioned earlier, it's been around since 1965, so over 50 years. For example, these data come from the Parent-Child Home website. In last year's graduating class of children who participated in the program for 2 years, 95% who started the program completed it successfully. So 85% show significant increases in school readiness skills, and 83% of the parents exhibit positive behaviors that contribute to their child's success in school. So a primary goal of this program is to change adult behavior with their children. There's decades of research on Parent-Child Home Program, and some of the results of that research is students have higher score on kindergarten readiness measures than peers with similar backgrounds. They score equal to or greater than the national average on standardized reading and math assessments, and have an 84% chance of graduating from high school, and there is a proven reduction in the need for special education classes for the students who participate in these programs. So the consideration for 2015-16 is to fund 25 children and their families to complete a 2-year program using Title I and United Way funding. The total cost would be $100,000 annually for the Kent School District for 2 years. So 25 kids at $4,000 a child per year. Why should we do this? Well, Hart and Risley's research on the 30 million word gap shows that the achievement gap begins as early as 16 months. So we need to get to our kids earlier. Parent-Child Home Program meets all of the KSD Board goals, particularly Goal 1, high student achievement, and the strategic sub-goals of each student entering kindergarten school ready, and each student meeting or exceeding established standards. And finally, Parent-Child Home Program facilitates families' transitions into early learning opportunities. So these families will be connected up with early Head Start, and ECAP, whereas they might not have found those programs if they hadn't been connected with Parent-Child Home. And now, Ms. Popp.
Thank you, Paige. So now we're looking at the Title I budget. And what we're using here is the projected budget using this year's numbers, because we don't have the federal numbers yet. So we're looking at a carryover. Our projected grant amount that we currently have is $5,691,000. And our carryover for this year is $569,000. That's about 10%. We can carry over 15% in Title I, and we carry over around 10% on an average. So we're looking, we have required set-asides, and we can't touch that at this time because we're still held to the No Child Left Behind, and we're without a waiver. So these required set-asides are firm at this point. So that is $1,536,000. Our indirect cost is $354,000, and that's using the projection of 6.65% for next year. So we are holding a 10% hold right now, just because we have, that was recommended by Dr. Stedray in our federal and state grants at this time until we know our final numbers. And then we're at building allocations. This is where we're at for this year, $2,498,000. We're at the call of the district principals. We provide an allocation to each building. They decide how they want to use that. These are current numbers, and they do get to switch this. They have the authority at a building level to switch from a certified to a classified. And, of course, the certified teacher is more expensive because we have other benefits that are added into that contract. So this is what we know as of today. Our student and family support service staff up at district office we have a .75 cert, which is myself out of Title I, and then we have 3.0 classified staff that help support the Title I program at district office, and that includes our homeless liaison. Our current and planned initiatives, which is really this $946,000, is the money we're considering when we look at the consideration for parent-child home. Currently, we have budgeted for PASA. We have homeless excess transportation cost. Now that fluctuates depending on our homeless numbers, anywhere from 300 to 500 students that are homeless each year. That excess transportation is ORCA card, Metro card, American Logistics, so that changes all the time. Then we have district support team cost, and that would be extra time for teachers that are working after hours as the district support team. Intervention materials, this could be, for example, Read Well. We have a resource that needs to be replaced. So these are materials that we help support the Title I buildings, Read Naturally, Read Well, etc. The WA Kids, right now we don't know where WA Kids is going to go. We may pick up 8 more additional schools for WA Kids, and we need to really wait till legislative session is over if that is going to be the plan. So we support extra hours for teachers, 15 extra hours currently, and also iPad costs for them to collect their data. ESOL, ST Math, Studio Coaching, EIS Coaching, etc. These are all of our district initiatives that are currently funded out of Title I. So as we work through the next few months, we continue to look at these initiatives. We determine if we're going to expand or discontinue, and that's our work over the next 10 to 12 weeks. Again, the cost is $100,000 that we need to hold. It is a 2-year contract with parent-child home, so we are really signing a contract for $200,000 obligation.
What Mrs. Pop is saying to all of us is, if we decide to embrace the parent-child home program for the 25 students for the next 2 years, we'll be taking $100,000 per year away from the general obligations that we support all the schools with Title I. And just to keep in mind that we make these decisions collaboratively, and it is approximately $4,500 per student, per individual student, to do this program. So that's the consideration that we're wrestling with, because it's very, very costly. Okay, thank you.
Do you have questions?
Any questions from the board?
Someone want to go first?
Sure. Did you want to go first?
No, I'm asking, does someone else want to go?
Well, I'll just say I attended the the update page. What was it called that we went to on parent? It was first I'd really heard about it, and I was so enthused about it. And what I think is so great about it is that it's culturally relevant, and a lot of our, well, not a lot, but maybe some more PASA parents could train to become those home visitors, and that's a paid position for them too, and it would help pull our communities, some of our harder to reach communities in. So that's an extension of.
That is how we wrote the initial grant, was to target our refugee population. Yeah.
And I know that grant was rejected. Is there some possibility we could get another grant from somewhere?
Oh, it's always a possibility. We constantly look at that, and yes, that's a possibility. Yeah, we would always look at.
Maya?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the grant. Dr. Del Giudice, you mentioned it was due to cost that we didn't get it. What does that mean, please?
My understanding from the executive committee, and I was told this by the ESD staff, is they loved the program. And we were in competition with other programs for the same money. They rejected our application reluctantly because of the high dollar cost per student. They didn't feel it was cost effective with that large amount being spent on a small number of students. And they were looking at things that would serve more students for that amount of money. That was what I was told.
Did they fund other districts? That's what I understood. No?
Not the first round on parent-child home, no.
Okay. Okay. All right.
The 25 families, we don't continue. We don't add another 25 families the second year. It's the same 25 families. Currently, parent-child home is serving 61 families. Yes. Through United Way.
Yeah. In Kent. And what at that meeting we went to, they said that there's probably another 102 families, and I said there's more than that.
Oh, they're out there.
Probably, yeah, probably another 102 families in Kent that could benefit from this.
We would work together to identify the families.
Great. Thank you, Agda.
Yeah, two questions. One was, so if we were to decide to invest Title I dollars this way, how would the children and their families be identified? Because we'd obviously want the investment to be where the greatest impact was. So students that that we knew wouldn't probably be as likely to do well in school. So,
well, I know how we initially wrote it. We were going to use the high need schools. And we were going to target the families that were enrolled in the high need schools. Mm-hmm.
And then my other question was kind of in the lines of what Karen was talking about with PASA. So how would this fit into sort of our systems or our grade or all the things that we're doing around early learning and other programs? Because I know really to have more of a greater impact with our investments, we want what we're doing to be connected to other things that we and others are doing related to early learning and reducing the achievement gap.
So I know that basic education doesn't cover preschool or early learning opportunities. So we have been very innovative with grant money and Race to the Top money to create a mosaic of opportunities to give access to a variety of different populations. So this would add just one more piece to that picture that I painted for you in my presentation in terms of all of the different early learning opportunities. And this one would probably target the most isolated families or the families that are most in need of being reached out to in their homes, the least likely to come to a class or come into a school building for something. So it targets a population that we really haven't penetrated yet. And as you mentioned, or was it Karen, about the PASA parents possibly finding a job opportunity here, certainly that's another positive of the program, is that it could potentially be a career path.
Russ?
So I'm getting the gist of this is just FYI, and this will be part of our budget deliberation for next year? Or
consideration.
Consideration,
yes.
Okay, all right. And just to be clear, it's $4,000 per family or is it $8,000 per family if you're splitting the cost?
So we would cover, it would be 25 families, 2-year commitment, and Kent School District would cover $100,000 of the first year, and then $100,000 of the second year.
All right, so because it's 2 years, it is a true cost. And yeah, I get where the grant's coming from. I mean, it's $86 an hour. It seems really high. Granted, we're talking about 0.0003% of our budget, and I get the argument that, you know, for every $1 we're going to invest will yield so many dollars in cost savings and or effectiveness. It's a small amount given our big budget, but I too am really concerned about the high intense cost of $86 an hour. But
does that include the paying for the books and toys that are provided? Oh
yeah, also? There's that other ancillary stuff. I guess I'll just have one other comment. I wouldn't mind seeing, and I've discussed this among our Eller colleagues, but another opportunity is to partner with Eller districts and give new moms a book or books, maybe partner with Amazon gift card, but to really begin to partner with the new moms in the district and, you know, Auburn, Kent, Burien, Renton, maybe even Highline. And the local hospitals, maybe they'll chip in too, but this is an idea that I've kind of regurgitated every couple of years, that getting partnerships with the hospital, Amazon, and others to engage the parents very on the importance of reading. So that's all, just a thought.
No,
we agree.
I just one question, my other ones have been answered, but so how do you deal with like the high mobility? So you identify the student in year 1 and then they move in year 2.
Well, if they do move into a district that is parent-child home, they would continue that. But we do have a high mobility in our high-need schools, and that is the 85% that continued. You can see why the numbers go down.
So would that be if they move to a different, would we continue to pay for that? Okay, just one.
In our service area.
Okay. Yeah, and I know, Russ, Karen, and I think it was it you, Karen, that we met with a company that actually, we met with a gal they actually partner with hospitals and work with doctors and have doctors giving out books to students in different areas to help with just exactly what you're saying, and it becomes part of the checkup when they come in and they get a book to read, and then the next visit they ask, how did you do that book, and the books are age appropriate all the way through, and I know that they're always looking for additional things.
It's Reach Out and Read.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr.
Thank you,
Sells is their executive director, and it's Well Baby checkups, and so that's another thing that we could be partnering with.
That is on my list of things to do, is to reach out to them and grow that program in this district.
And I know they did reach out to us.
Yes.
It might have been last year, so it would be great. All right.
Debbie,
yes.
One more. I'd like to understand the districts that have been funded, if they are roadmap districts, I believe, if it's Race to the Top, what success they've had. I mean, I don't know if we've looked at that, how long they've been doing this, because I know United Way has been providing this for years, so there must be some districts that are doing really well.
It's 2 years in our area, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we can look into that and get that information back to you through Dr. Apostle.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so next, Dr. Apostle, I believe you, Dr. Stedry, have some information on the community budget form.
Yes, briefly. As a result of the board's interest for staff to educate, engage, and receive feedback from the community and staff, Tuan Nguyen and Dr. Stedry and Chris Loftus and I have met to develop a plan to reach out into the community and meet with various groups, staff, elected officials, members of the chamber, members of the faith community, throughout the community to bring to their attention the financial condition of the district, the anticipated projected student enrollments, and the projected revenue stream for the 2015-2016 school year. We are really excited about doing this because it's been some time since we have organized the district to reach out into the community. And I know that the board is extremely interested to receive the feedback from community members as we begin to prioritize the budget for the 2015-2016 school year. So as you can see, we are a very ambitious team of folks that will begin next week with our so-called budget forums, also known as the Budget Roadshow, because we'll be taking it throughout the district. And so we're excited about doing it. And again, the board will receive the feedback we receive. Not only will people be able to respond with paper and pencil at the forums themselves, but they also will be able to go to our website and be able to offer their opinions about the funding priorities of the school district. So at this point, Dr. Stedry, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, but I think we should have Chris talk a little bit about communication.
All right, very good. Chris, would you like to come up and talk about that?
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle. Yes, we are starting today with a press release going out with this basic schedule. We're also going to, at each of the schools' feeder patterns that you see, we'll be sending out skyward emails to the parents at those feeder from the elementary middle schools that feed into those high schools at least a week ahead of the event. And then 2 to 3 days before the event, there will be an auto dialer as well. So they'll see it on the district web page. There's a web story up there now. They'll hopefully see it in the media. They'll get an email about it. They'll also get a phone call about it. We're also encouraging each of the feeder schools to then send out through their own newsletters, the reader boards, and that sort of thing. So they're going to have a district approach and a school-specific approach. So, and with the first community one, which will be next Thursday at the Kent Valley Early Learning Center. I always get my initials mixed up there. For the KM feeder patterns, we'll have the web page ready to go to receive their input.
Thank you, Chris. Anything you'd like to add, Dr. Sedry?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, real good. Members of the board, any questions?
Just a comment, if we could maybe reach out to the PTAs as well, if they could do, because they send out, a lot of them send out their newsletter to take home. So if we could give the PTA release.
That is part of the plan too. If you'll see that the PTA district council is up there, and we'll be using that as a forum to reach out to all. You also see the multicultural outreach. We're devising plans to work with our PASA and cultural navigators to both have a forum that people can come to at KM, but also go to places like Birch Creek, working with the Housing Authority, so that we're going where many of our non-English speaking enclaves reside. We will have multiple translators at these places, and we'll be working with Dr. Stedry to change his presentation into a way that is more easily translatable and gets not just the specific numerical facts that he's talking about, but the concepts as well for people who are newcomers to our system and to our system of public finance education.
Chris, when you're looking at Birch Creek, I'd like to ask that you also look at the apartment complexes alongside Ken Kangley, and then look at Valley Key and Cascade as well out on 104th and Benson.
And I received that information today about the other groups that might be available. Okay. Our sense is that we've had these types of budget forums before and had translators on site and went to quite a bit of expense, both in personnel and dollars to have that capacity there, but then they were quite underused. So this time we're hopefully going to be more forward thinking and going to folks and being more inviting by our presence and by our willingness to come to where they are, as opposed to just planting the flag and say, come our way and we'll talk to you.
That's right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other? Great, thank
So
you. Yes, Russ, sorry.
I'm really interested in the content of the presentations. My preference is that it's a half of talking, and then the other half listening. So that I'm really interested. I mean, I'm thinking we're going to have more money next year. I'm just optimistic. And so what priorities, not just current priorities, because, I mean, that seems like a foolish exercise of, yeah, keep funding all these things that you're doing. But in anticipation, I know we don't want to get people's hopes up, but it certainly would be nice to hear from the public. What other things does the district need? Maybe just simply phrase it that way. So I really hope this is a listening session as well as I see presentation, and that makes me nervous. So
well, I think that there's a piece that's required, as you would expect, to educate people about something that is not readily and easily understood by the general public. And so there's a task at hand is to try to simplify very sophisticated, complex financial information in a way that is really consumable for the general public. And Dr. Stedry does a very good job with breaking it down. But you're right. There is a real need for people to understand what our priorities are, have been in the district, and what we're looking for in the future. But we certainly will do our very best to listen to the feedback and give ample opportunity for that.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. All right, so we are moving on to 4.0 for Board of Directors discussion and approval. First on the agenda tonight is 4.01. This is Resolution 1457, authorizing refunding all or a portion of the district's outstanding unlimited tax general obligation bonds series 2006, 2007, and 2008. And I am asking for a motion to approve Resolution 1457, authorizing refunding a portion of the district's outstanding unlimited tax general obligation bonds 2006, 2007, and 2008.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion or questions on the motion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Next is 4.02. I am asking for a motion to approve Resolution 1458 and 1459, declaring the properties in front of Jenkins Creek Elementary School and a piece of the bus annex property surplus properties.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion or questions on the motion? Okay. Hearing none.
Well, maybe
Whoops.
I'll just be reminded again of sort of what I know this is one step in the process, and I was wanted to be reminded sort of what the whole process is again.
Thank you. Dr. Stedry?
At the next, probably not the next board meeting, but 2 board meetings from tonight, you will pass a resolution indicating to the public that you are interested in selling these 2 pieces of property. Then at the next board meeting, after 2 publications in the paper, you will hold a public hearing for people to make comment about it, close the hearing, then you will make the decision. If the decision is to sell the property, then we will advertise that you're going to sell the property, and that's where the 45 days come in that you have to wait from the first publication, to when you can get ready to sell it. So we're probably 4 months down the road before we really can put out the word through the real estate agents.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next is 4.03. Maya had requested this agenda topic. So Maya, if you'd like to lead a discussion of what it is first, and then we'll call for a motion.
Yes. So, I'm sorry, I'm battling a cold. Okay. So this resolution, HB House Bill 1813, has to do with expanding computer science education in Washington State. And basically the summary of the bill is that it's going to create a grant program that will support our students who are underserved in the area of computer science, giving them access and scholarship for those who are underrepresented in our communities. The second grant is for a educator training grant that will support our teachers who are interested in various programming but don't have the necessary training. And in our schools, we find that even at, say, Martin Sortune, our teachers are getting training from one individual who's putting in quite a bit of time to train the other teachers. And this is not a model that can sustain itself. And so we really need to look to the legislations to find innovative ways of funding computer science education. And so the idea here is to set up grants that would be supported by private organizations through donations, gifts, and I don't remember what the other part is. Through really donations, gifts, and grants. And the private organizations would match those funds. So I'm asking for a resolution to establish education standards for computer science. This would be done in addition to supporting the grants. There would be education standards as well as endorsement for computer science, which, as you may know, we only have endorsements through CTE right now for computer science and not through professional standards. So it would establish education standards, provide scholarships and funding for training educators teaching computer science, and also would fund equipment in the classrooms. So I'm asking for the resolution.
So I guess, Maya, you had, with the help of staff, developed a possible resolution for this evening.
Yes.
Consideration.
Yes.
So.
Do I read this?
Can you read it? Are you good?
I'm okay.
Do you want to read it? Or
I don't know how this
We don't
works.
have to read it.
We don't have to read it. We've had it provided to us, but the more of the question, some discussion as to whether we want to proceed with the motion. We can take a motion to approve the resolution and then have some discussion on it.
I move that we approve the resolution supporting House Bill 1813.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarification, Kathy, would this be then resolution 1460? 60. Thank you. Okay, so 1460 would be the resolution number.
Okay.
So it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion or further questions on the resolution?
Is this anything we've thought about sharing with other school districts?
No, I wanted us to be the first.
We can always be the first, but then we can share it.
Yeah, sure, we could share. Actually, I've talked to our city council, Dana Ralph, city council president. There is a question of can we work with our cities to partner in expanding the robotics program? I mean, that came up. It's part of STEM, but computer science is part of STEM, so it all meshes together, and wherever we can get partnerships and support in this, it's really appreciated. So yes, we can.
I would be happy to share this resolution with the 35 superintendents that will be meeting on Friday at the ESD.
Great. And I want to say thank you to Tuan. He actually drafted this, and so just want to thank him for the time.
All right, so
Are we still in discussion?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I hope next time we might get this a little bit earlier, because I think it might not get to the appropriate committees in time.
Well, no, the Senate committee's meeting March 19th.
Okay, all right.
So we're good.
So it passed out of the House
Yes,
then?
passed out of the House, 97-7 or something like that.
So we might want to consider making an addition that clarified that, since as the way it's written now, it just talked about the committees that it passed out of and not passing the full House, unless I missed it.
Well, at the bottom, it does say we encourage Washington's governor and state legislature to support House bill to expand in Washington. I thought it did say state.
I was referring to where it says it has cleared the House committees on education and appropriations. It would be stronger if it indicated that the whole House had approved it, so that might be a consideration to add.
Yeah, it was 91-7, but yeah, overwhelming.
So, Curtis, the appropriate way to amend the resolution?
We can have a motion to amend, and then we'll vote on the motion to amend and then to the substance.
Okay. So I guess I would need a motion to amend if we want to amend that.
I move that we amend that resolution before us so that it captures the current status of the bill, which is that it's passed by the whole House.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that motion? So we'll go ahead and call for the motion to amend the resolution to clarify that it has passed out of the whole House. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And now we need to vote on the original motion to, yes, sir.
Before we vote on the motion, I want to, the PDC, the Public Disclosure Commission, allows for a board to take action on legislation as long as it's announced in public forum. And so I just want to verify that there hasn't been any opportunity or any public comment on this item before you take the vote. And so if there's any comments or public comments that have been submitted.
I do not have any public comments on this
you.
item. Thank you. Okay, so we'll now vote on the approval of Resolution 1460 as previously amended.
So moved.
Thank you.
Or
I think we've already moved.
Yeah,
we've
we're
already
voting now.
seconded, so we can just vote.
Oh.
Aye.
All those in favor? Okay, one at a time. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
Can I just clarify also, March 19th is scheduled for a public hearing in the Senate Committee for Early Learning in K through 12.
Great, thank you. So Dr. Apostle, can you work then to clean up that?
Certainly
so
will.
that you can bring it to the superintendents on the
On Friday.
Friday.
You bet.
I was trying to remember what day Friday was. Okay. Thank you, Maya, for bringing that. All right. Yeah. So next we're moving on to 4.04. And before we begin our discussion, we actually have 3 cards on this item. So this is an item, there's been a request to revisit the school impact fees for Phase 3 Tarragon. So I'm going to ask those who have asked to speak on this agenda item to please come to this microphone to address the board, and you will have 3 minutes to do so. We'll start with Dee Clem and then followed by Mauricio Aon.
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle. My name is Dee Clem. I'm a parent in the district with a 10th grader at Kent Meridian and a 7th grader at Meeker. I've been involved with PTAs, PTOs, the Citizen Budget Review Committee, the levy campaign. However, I do not profess to be an expert on school district financing and budgeting, but I do know that Washington State school districts are underfunded, and the waiver that you voted for back in January confuses me. In October of 2014, the City of Kent reviewed its 6-year capital finance plan, which included school impact fees. The council set a rate of $5,486 for single-family units and $3,378 for multifamily units. It's roughly about a 39% discount, or $2,000 per unit. From my understanding, the developer asked to completely waive fees on a portion of the development. By approving that waiver, the board has essentially allowed the developer to double dip on a discount already considered by the multifamily unit fees set by the City of Kent. My understanding of the code is that there are allowances for waivers for senior and low-income housing, and that this project does not profess to be either of those. The code already discounts the rate, so I'm wondering why the board considered waiving it completely. The money is designated for capital improvements. The schools impacted by this project in particular are the most overcrowded schools. Neely O'Brien is a maze of portables. I had to have 3 students help me find one that I was looking for the other day. Mill Creek is bursting with over 800 students, and just this year the district opened the new preschool kindergarten early learning center to alleviate overcrowding in those schools impacted by this development. So I just didn't understand how you guys came to that decision and urge you to reconsider.
Thank you. Following Mauricio will be Alan Sutliff.
Hi, President Strauss, members of the board. For the record, my name is Mauricio Ayon, and I live on 328 West Meeker here in Kent. And I'm here today. I wanted to share a document. I know it's customary to sort of provide documents about a week in advance, but I just became aware of this issue. So I wanted to share this document, if you indulge me for a second here. This document that I'm passing around is called the Racial Equity Impact Assessment. This is a document that is used by agencies, cities, and counties. The City of Seattle, the King County uses it. It is a systematic examination of how different racial and ethnic groups will likely be affected by a proposed action or decision. These assessments are also used to minimize adverse consequences and to reduce, eliminate, and prevent racial discrimination and inequities in a policy. So I recently became aware of the waiver of impact fees to a private corporation, and they're worth over $200,000. Over the last few days, I have visited the 3 schools that are within 2 miles from where I live. I live on 328 West Meeker. And those schools are Kent Elementary, East Hill Elementary, and Neely O'Brien, as it was mentioned earlier. Those 3 schools have over 84% of students of color. There's over 20 portables in the 3 schools. I just want to read something from your website, from the website that, from Kent Valley Early Learning Center, when it was put together. It says, overcrowding is becoming an increasing challenge in our Valley elementary schools, and more permanent solutions such as the construction of new schools are years away. While this temporary program relocation may offer a few challenges, it is the best solution available. I urge you to please reconsider this. I don't think this is the right tax rate for a private corporation. Thank you.
Do I need to state my my address as well?
Your name is sufficient.
Alan Sutliff, parent at Mill Creek and Kent Meridian now. President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, thank you for taking the time to even put this back on the agenda, and hopefully after you get done listening to us, reconsider this waiver of impact fees, as well as then revote to dismiss the waiver. I can't articulate better than what we just heard on most of the issues, but I would implore you to maybe go back and revisit your own policies and create some policies that give some clear direction, because I've heard some really good things from all of you as board members, and I know you stand for putting money into the school district because you've made some really good decisions over the last couple of years to maximize the revenue coming into the district. I think we may be missing in this district some clear policies that give staff guidance on what's appropriate to bring to you to consider. Because what happened back in October was something that has not happened in anything that I've been able to find. So I dug back in all of the public records that are available on the web, 10 years, not a single mention of waiving an impact fee until October of last year. The only place I could find impact fees at all is in the updated capital facilities plan that what used to be reviewed every 6 months or so. Hasn't been brought to all of you for a review since June 2009, at least according to the public documents on the board docs. That may be incorrect, but that's what I could find. Dee's already mentioned the reduction that's for multifamily. It's supposed to do exactly what this developer came and negotiated an additional fee reduction. That's why it's less per apartment unit than a single family home, because it's understood that some apartments won't have kids. That's the whole point of having a reduced rate. There are other school districts that have lower impact fees, but there are other school districts like Highline that have significantly higher impact fees. My only understanding is that's probably because of property values in the various school districts. So please reconsider this. Please then vote down the waiver.
Thank you, Alan. So that concludes our public comment on this. Mr. Hanscom, I believe you brought this back for consideration, so do you want to speak to it first?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. First, I really do want to express my appreciation that this was put back on the agenda. And the only reason that I asked for it to be put back on the agenda is after discussion with Maya. We both felt like we didn't have the correct information to make our decisions upon, and that 3 facts that were presented were misunderstood, miscommunicated, or whatever. So in light of those new facts, I felt that we had a legitimate and reasonable argument that this should be revisited. Because of those facts, consciously or unconsciously, I feel that some of the board members might have made their decision. So those facts to me were, and please correct me if I'm wrong or your misinterpretation, that the city supported this. Now I understand that the Director of Economic Development, the Director of Planning said, here, this is a good idea, we're forwarding their request. When I heard the words city supported this, I felt that might have influenced my colleagues, right or wrong, consciously or unconsciously. But that's no different, in my opinion, of one of the chiefs saying the school district supports this. So that's just my perception. So that's the first fact. The second fact was these fees have already been paid. They had to have been paid to get their building permits. And that wasn't made clear to me at the time, and nor I feel the board at the time, that these fees were already paid. The last fact that really just came to light yesterday or today was we were asked to make the adjustment in the school impact fees for 68 apartments, when in fact 20 of the apartments don't have an impact fee because they're studio. So we said, all right, we'll reduce the impact by $230,000, when in fact it should be reduced by 20 times $3,378, $67,000 and some change. So our resolution that we passed has an incorrect dollar amount to it. So I'm leery that the developer could say, well, they reduced the impact fees by $230,000 when you can't reduce a zero impact fee anymore. So it's not, we shouldn't be making an impact on 84 apartments. The decision should be on the 64 apartments. So that brings me to my other point, that I get very concerned with this board when we are put in the position of having to make an opinion. I would much rather this board make decisions based on fact. When the board is put in the position, when I'm put in the position of having to be a building code writer or a building code evaluator to determine whether or not this apartment that the developer says really isn't a one-bedroom, although we say it's a one-bedroom, but it's really not a one-bedroom. I don't know if the city has said, well, if it's a one-bedroom, you're going to require to have a window. Because at least I know that from building assisted living. If you have a bedroom, you have a window. So if these 64 other one-bedroom apartments have a window, which we don't know, but we were just asked for our opinion, is this type of one-bedroom really not a one-bedroom? Dr. Stedry's not a building code inspector. We're not building code inspectors. So I got very uncomfortable that a school board has to make a building code decision. So that's another argument that I have, that this is extraordinarily uncomfortable. So not only are we put in the position of being building code inspectors or decision makers, but what we did 6 weeks ago, January 14th, was essentially like the EPA taking oil and coal position papers and saying, yes, that should be our regulations. Because what we did was took the developer's opinion and said, okay, because we don't know otherwise what really constitute a one-bedroom. So Before I implore and make a motion that we rescind our previous decision, I would really like us to stick to the facts of the code. The facts of the code are studios are $0. 1-bedrooms are $3,378. If our decision is unfair and unusual, then the city can rationalize why that is. Because I can't. I can't say why, whether a 1-bedroom is really not a 1-bedroom or not. I'm going to be pretty surprised if that company doesn't market them as 1-bedrooms. And no matter if, you know, I could call myself Tom Selleck all I want while I was in high school, but it didn't change the fact that I was still Russ Hanscom. So we can't call it something else, is my opinion. I believe that's the prerogative of the city and the building code and the people that really know what actually a 1-bedroom is. So when I look at the black and white facts of the case, multifamily units, 3,378. I'm very comfortable with that decision. So if my colleagues have any other thoughts, any questions, but after our discussion, I will be making a motion to rescind our previous decision.
Thank you, Russ. Maya?
Okay. I need to go back to the meeting we had prior to January 14th where we made a decision. Russ was not there, but there was a discussion of why we should have adjusted the impact fees. And the overwhelming sense from that meeting I took away is that yes, these are studio apartments and also open 1-bedroom apartments, and they wouldn't have children in those apartments. But also there was a mention that this was for the benefit of the city. And I have to go back to discussions we've had on Covington, where we really talked about, in my view, anytime we enter a collaboration, we look for a win-win situation. That's how I proceed. Is there an advantage to getting into a certain agreement with the city? So I'm not in the position as Russ is where I will just say no to a developer. I want to look to see what benefits we have as a school district from that developer, and if that would compensate for the reduction or the waiver. And in the case of Covington, I assumed that there would be some concessions. So based on that understanding, I went into the Kent discussion and hearing from Dr. Steddery that the city of Kent has given their blessing and that this would be for the good of the city. That is the reason why I agreed to the adjustment. So I just want to make that clear. Subsequently, I was approached by a city council member and made aware that this was not requested by anyone at the city. And they were willing to testify in front of the school board saying that they didn't ask for this. And so that's a really important thing, and that's where I said to Debbie I'd really like to revisit this. So I just want to make clear that this wasn't a discussion that happened between Russ and I. It happened outside of that prior to the discussion Russ and I had. And so I'm coming back to the situation not only because the city hasn't really asked for this, but I understand that this open 1-bedroom apartment could potentially have children from talking to city officials. There is a possibility that there could be children in that open 1-bedroom. And the issue here is that this is a one-shot deal. If we agree to adjust this, we can't go back and say, hey, now you have children, so we want our money back. So, I mean, that's the part that really bothers me, is that this is a one-shot deal. You can't go back and ask for this money. And so this is information that I didn't have when I made the decision. So I'm human enough to say that, you know, I didn't have the information to make the right decision. So I would be in agreement with Russ on this.
Well, that was helpful for me to hear that because I had made the decision to waive the fees based on my understanding of the purpose of the fees, which are for the students that would be generated from that new construction, and that we would then need the schools or expanding our schools for those students. And so my understanding was that the studio and the open one-bedroom apartment units would not be families in there and students in there, and that was the basis of my decision. Now I'm uncertain, I guess, and maybe looking for more guidance, and it seems that there's some uncertainty among others about whether or not the one-bedroom apartment units would or would not generate families and students. So if there was anyone who was able to speak to that, that would be helpful for me.
Karen, any?
Yeah, I'm going to sort of be the devil's advocate here. Not that I'm supporting this, but it's just on my mind. It's sort of like the horse is out of the barn. I mean, however it came to be, this is where we are right now. Tarragon knows, the city knows. Tarragon's not happy with even what we're proposing. They want it reduced even more. They want, because they say one of their one bedrooms would produce less children than what our current formula produces. And they want it graduated for the different sizes of the apartments. And they had the O'Connor study done, 49 pages. I read through most of it today. It's all very factual. They've got overhead shots of garden-style apartments and urban apartments. They've talked about what they are and you know what they aren't. What Russ said, leave it up to the city to decide. We may end up with even less than what we asked for originally. So, and it's meant for children to be housed in the schools in that area. We can't spend it someplace else in the district. We can't spend it on anything else. It's for the housing of these children. And if there are not many children coming from that area, then is it right to take a whole bunch of money when they're proposing or not proposing, whatever? So that's my say.
Okay. Great. So, Russ, did you want to make a motion?
Well, so let me just, for Karen, appreciate, you know, I don't like revisiting decisions that we've made, but it's also a fact that we're still human. And when additional information comes to light, I think it's only fair to the public whose resources we are entrusted to spend and or collect. So, Agda, just to address is a student or not going to come out of an open air, garden, urban, more professional, millennial type apartment? That's really not the issue. The issue is that the code right here, let me read it to you, that the standard impact fees may be adjusted if the impact fee assessment was improperly calculated. So they're going to make that argument. Mm-hmm. I've read how impact fees are calculated. I would put our best mathematicians in the district on that because it's very, very complicated. It's entirely complicated. Different indexes that are adjusted and inflated. So I don't think we should we can't decide whether the city and or staff and Tarragon are going to have to argue that out. The second reason that we may adjust impact fees, as I mentioned, it would be unfair or unjust. So again, I'll come back to their argument being this is unfair and it's unjust because our apartments that are studios that you can charge $3,378 on really are more like the zero multifamily apartments. So I'm okay with kicking that can down the road because none of us are building code people. And my argument would be that I'll make to City Council when the time comes, if that unit has one bedroom code applied to it, it's a one bedroom. I don't care what you call it, who calls it what, how many kids you think might come in or out of it. Something objectively has to define it as a one bedroom, for the love of God. So, and I would personally rely on city code, because then they have to comply with one bedroom code. So again, I think that's a decision that the city should make. I really appreciate the equity issues. I am apologetic that I was not focused on that, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, we make decisions all the time, oblivious to the impact of our schools of 84% color, and press it to say that if we weren't collecting impact fees, you know, downtown Mercer Island, that there wouldn't be 100 parents showing up saying, why are you taxing us twice the amount or 66% more, but you're what? The public awareness would be much greater, in my opinion. Now we're making hypothetical arguments. I'm doing exactly what I said we shouldn't do, basing our decision on opinions and hypotheticals. I wish, you know, I'm going to make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
That we rescind our decision, readjusting the impact fees of our vote on, am I saying it right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Correct. Stop me, interrupt me if I'm messing up. So, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we rescind our vote that we took on January 14th to adjust the school impact fees for the Tarragon project in the city of Kent.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or questions on the motion?
I can keep saying the same thing over and over.
And I'm going to say what I just said again, is that there's no guarantee that we're going to get that money, because they're going to be at it, and they're going to reduce it, and it may be even less than what our first motion said, and there's no guarantee we'd get what our first motion said either. So I'm okay with letting the city put it in the city's lap and say, you figure it out.
And just a point of clarification, so the motion to rescind simply rescinds the motion that happened, and then it would still need to be revisited, so it doesn't automatically do the other, so everybody's clear.
We'd have to take it up again.
Correct. There's no additional action. You go back to square one, to where you were before the original motion was made. Action was taken.
Yeah, let's just wait till the...
I'm sorry, can you say that? I couldn't hear you, Dr. Studry.
When you rescind, what you're in essence saying is that you're going to leave the present capital facility plan in place with the multifamily school impact fee per unit.
And it's, the studios are out of the picture. It's just the one bedroom and up. Is that right?
By statute, if I remember right, the studio apartment, and I'm playing planner, is defined as a studio, is by statute not considered for fees. Yeah. Mr. Hanscom's concern about the studio bedroom isn't spoken to.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
So just for clarification, the motion to rescind makes it like we've never made a decision.
That is correct.
And it...
Just let it ride, the capital plan.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I could... Going to leave another city out of it at this point.
Okay. All right, so is there any further discussion on the motion? So I'm going to call for the vote on the motion, which is to rescind the previous, is that a resolution? To rescind this decision on the school impact fees for the Phase 3 Tarragon. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. All right. So,
sorry.
We will then move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that the board would like to pull for discussion from the consent agenda?
I just had one little question about the general fund voucher.
Okay.
So 5.06.
5.06?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that anyone would like to pull, Maya?
5.05 question.
5.05? Thank you. Anything else? So I will call for a motion to approve the consent agenda less 5.05 and 5.06. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Karen will speak to yours first. 5.06, please.
Yeah, there was just like the needle in the haystack. There, for the American Reading Company, there was professional development for 2 days of professional development for all of the elementary schools except Kent Elementary, and Kent Elementary got 1 day of professional development, and I was wondering why that was, if anybody knows.
Luann?
So based on the timing of the voucher, Kent Elementary has actually already had 4 days of professional development with the American Reading Company and has 2 more days scheduled this next week.
Okay.
It was just due to the cutoff of the timing.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Luann.
Okay, so any other questions on that? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call, we've got to call for 5.05 and then 5.06, so I'll call for a motion to approve 5.06.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Any opposed? Sorry. I counted 5 ayes, so is Maya 5.05, please.
Yeah, I just had a question on the computers that are bought or any of these items that are coming through.
Which one are you talking about? I'm sorry. Which fund?
No, we're on 5.05, gift.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So my question, Tuan, if you know, the gifts that come through, the donors choose the technology that comes through, are they inventoried in our system? And how do we account for them?
The short answer is yes. We have standards for any of the donations that we accept, whether it's through Donors Choose or anyone that comes through. It does get asset tagged and becomes a part of the district inventory process.
And how does that get controlled? I mean, through internal controls, how do we know? Is it when the check is issued that the items are detailed out and going into inventory? Or how do we know that a school or department has received these items?
It depends on how the donation is done. For Donors Choose, they do it a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's a gift voucher that you then go to a Best Buy or a reseller of some kind to exchange for the item itself. But as part of the donation form itself, you fill out the serial number. You have the device in hand. You fill out the serial number. Through the internal control process, through business services, the inventory asset tag person would then issue the tag, register that serial number in our database, basically. And then we go through and install the various softwares like LoJack and other things so that we have clear tracking of the devices.
So it's basically an honor system in a way, because if you get a voucher, you can take it to a Best Buy and buy, and you're relying on whoever gets that donation to let you know. Is that right?
Yes, that is how the process works in terms of accepting that donation, is somebody has to act as an agent on behalf of the district to receive that item, and the person that's acting on behalf of the district initiates that process.
Okay. I guess I'm seeing a little control issue there. I mean, what if that is misappropriated? I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility. So it's just something to think about, because there are large checks that are coming through for technology in there.
Yeah, I think If it's an actual check, that's different.
Checks, but sorry,
Yeah,
there's
equipment.
large money or equipment, yeah, coming through. So I don't know how we keep track of that.
Yeah, I'll give that
Something to think about.
some thought, but because the transaction is not between DonorsChoose.org and us, it's almost like an eBay where any individual could misrepresent themselves as a teacher or part of the school system, put those items up and receive funding and support.
Yeah.
There's really no way to insert ourselves as an entity to say that this is on behalf of the Kent School District, this is on behalf of Kent Ridge.
Yeah.
And so it very much
It's a
is
little, yeah.
the person accepting it on behalf of the district going through the process.
We want to trust our teachers, of course, just saying that that could be an internal auditing issue, so, okay.
All right, thank you. So I will call for the vote on 5.0. Oh,
we need a motion.
A motion. I'll call for a motion on 5.05.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. All right, so we've now reached our communication, and I don't have any more cards from the audience, so we will move on to our superintendent report. Dr. Hassel.
Very, very quickly, last Monday, a group of students representing our high schools and two of our board members, Agda and Debbie and Chris, the four adults and the students went down to Olympia for the legislative day, and we had a great day down there. Our students performed very well, asking pointed questions to our legislators, and I was just very proud to be associated with these students. They made me proud, and it was a glorious sunny day. The cherry blossoms, apple blossoms, whatever they were, but the Olympia Capitol was just beautiful. So it was a very memorable day for me, and really enjoyed being a part of it.
Thank you. All right, so we will move on to board reports. Agda?
Excuse me, Madam President. I didn't have questions about the informational items, but I was wondering if others did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
6.01 and 6.02.
Sorry, my agenda that I had didn't have that on there, so I apologize. So we'll go back to 6.01. So did anyone have, there was informational items on 6.01. Did anyone have any questions on this?
I actually did, but I didn't write it down.
Oh, do you want me to pull it
on
up? Which one?
6.01.
Okay. Thank you for calling that to my attention, Agda.
Oh, maybe it wasn't this one.
Is it the other one?
It was actually on the vouchers.
Oh, okay, we already
I'll ask
discussed.
Okay, so I'm not hearing any questions on 6.01. The other is 6.02, the fiscal statement that is produced every month. Are there any questions on this? I would like to say I do appreciate it being on BoardDocs so that it's open to the public. So thank you for making that happen. So, all right, thank you. All right, so now we're going to move to board reports. So, Karen, would you like to start?
Oh, sure. I can't remember which day it was. I think it was the week in one of the last week in February. Maya and I went to Martin Sortune to see the robotics program and ended up getting a huge tour from Greg. Greg did a wonderful job of selling his school and his staff, and he's so proud of everybody there and what they're doing. And it was really fun to watch the beginning robotics program and to hear about how they're planning on expanding it carefully and thoughtfully and moving forward. So that was great. And then on the 27th, I went on a tour of Sunrise, the high-cap programs, the cluster class and the self-contained class, one of the self-contained classes there, and then Neely O'Brien, 3 of the cluster classes, because I was interested in seeing how they were doing. And it was really nice because we got to work with the kids. Ann Valenzuela and Karen Stevens and Rebby Helen were all with me, and it was really nice to be able to talk with them and talk with the teacher, and they pointed out which of the kids were the kids that were in the cluster and which of the kids were the Promise Scholars, which I think is really great. They're the ones that are almost made it, a lot of kids of color, and they're grouped in with those kids as is fit to work at some higher levels. It was also really nice to, I had time afterwards to pull the teacher out and just talk to the teacher about what, in this case, she needs, feels like the cluster program needs, and every one of them said more math supplemental materials, resources. Many of them said more training, which I understand. And some of them said the higher level reading books. One person said, and she's been there teaching a long time, she said, I've got all my own books. But I know that having taught high-cap kids, if the school has a set of books, a lot of times there aren't high enough books that can work for those kids. The other thing is that Rebbe is in charge of all the schools, the gifted programs for all the schools, which is a monumental task. And suggestion would be for us to look at possibly letting her do the elementaries and putting somebody in charge of secondary gifted programs or highly capable programs. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was back in my element. It was really neat to work with the kids.
Thank you.
It's like being a grandma.
Yeah. It's a great thing to be a grandma. It is. Agda?
I brought information to share from a couple things I've been at recently, and one was that I spent a week at the first course that was part of the UW Executive Leadership Program for pre-K through third grade. So I'm very appreciative to the district for the opportunity to attend along with Paige. And then also Alice, who's our principal at Kent Valley Early Learning Center, and Rachel, who's assistant principal at Kent Elementary. And so if you're interested, this is one of the frameworks that we're using to sort of frame the work that we're doing, which is really a systemic approach to really reducing the achievement gap through having a P3, pre-K through third grade alignment approach, and that there's really different systemic things to be doing, and so that's what we're going to be exploring. And I'll be there to listen and think about my role in helping the district do that from a policy perspective. And this course goes through December, so I'll be sharing more as we go along. But with some great speakers, I was in the car with Debbie, and I was going on and on about some of the great speakers that we learned from. So that was one thing, and then as Dr. Apostle mentioned, I had a wonderful opportunity to go with our students to Olympia. We met with 3 legislators, met with the governor, met with Marcy Maxwell, the governor's education advisor, and I thought you might be interested in knowing some of the things that our high school students brought up in those conversations that were of interest to them. And so they talked about ample funding for our schools, including for facilities. And they talked about professional development, in particular for our paraeducators. And then they talked quite a bit about scholarships and how that the scholarships that are promised to our students that are on the free and reduced lunch, concerned that the money is not going to be there, that the scholarship's not going to be there when our state made that promise to them. And then also had some questions about assessment and the time that's spent on assessment, and seeing the value of assessment, but is that time spent on assessment getting in the way of some learning? So that was very insightful to hear those from our students. And if you haven't seen them already, I brought copies of the, which you probably have, the WASDA legislative priorities that we talked to our legislators about. Also, when I was with Debbie at the legislative conference the day before our visit, they had these NSBA documents there that I was very excited because it's the technology event that's going to be here. And so Kent School District, Washington, and these are distributed across the country. So that was exciting to see. So I brought you all copies of that. And then later this month, most of the state legislators are having public hearings, and it's a great opportunity for those of us who can go and ask them what they're doing to fund education and support our students. So Senator Kaiser from the 33rd is having a town hall by teleconference on Thursday, March 25th at 6 p.m. And then the 3 legislators from the 47th district are going to be doing it when we're at the NSBA conference. So that's going to be Saturday, the 21st from 11 to 12:30 at Golden Steer. So I encourage you all to contact them by email since you won't be present there. And then finally, I was going to encourage you all as my colleagues to consider attending the WASDA regional meeting, which will be at Tahoma Junior High on April 16th. I always find those gatherings with our school board colleagues to be very informative, and that there's folks that come from the state to present too, usually from OSPI. And then the equity convening that I know Maya's been giving input on that is Puget Sound ESD and WASDA are convening for school board directors and superintendents, and that's on April 29th from 3 to 7 p.m. So I hope we'll have a good showing at that too. So, and that's it.
Great, thank you. Maya?
Okay, as Karen mentioned, we had a great visit at Martin Sortune. I just want to thank Principal Kroll, as well as teacher Greg Ferguson. I don't know if you've ever met Greg Ferguson, but he is the star of the school. It seems like he has his hands on engineering, science, whatever STEM has, whatever. He has a lot of strengths. I'll just put it at that. And I want to thank them for not only showing us all of the things that they're doing in the classroom and having an opportunity to talk with the teachers, but really helping us understand the struggle that we have in our district to scale some of these projects across different schools. We see how hard they work and how our teachers really need the resources and the training to do what Martin Sortune does. You can't necessarily replicate what they do by moving a principal over to another school. You really have to have those teachers who have the passion and the interest to get those STEM programs going. And so I had an opportunity to visit them as well at the when the $20,000 grant was provided by OSPI for they've just become a Lighthouse STEM model, which means essentially that they will be going around other schools to show them all of the achievements, and talk about how other schools can do the work that they do. But it's a little silly because they really see that it's ingrown, talent, and you have to develop that talent. So hopefully, we can continue to nurture and provide the necessary assistance to have a robust STEM program in most of our schools. I did attend the first robotics competition at Auburn Mountain High School. It was at the urging of Washington First. As you know, Washington First Robotics is in our own backyard, and they invited me to attend to see what their kids are doing, to see how we as a board can support robotics in our schools. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that there was a student there who was very willing to do outreach with our elementary and middle schools. She did an outreach program in Issaquah, and she was very willing to pull our teachers together who are interested in STEM, have them attend a robotics competition March 29th. And if they're interested, start an after-school program, and she would help them build that program as a student. And so that was something I jumped on if there's interest, and she was willing to do the outreach materials for our teachers at possibly Kent Elementary, Neely O'Brien, and Mill Creek, and it's something I have to talk to everybody, but that's something that she suggested we could do. Then I was at the Green River Diversity and Equity Conference, and one of the things I wanted to mention is that they're starting a whole new council, and they have a grand charter program. as most of you know, we have an equity network that's starting in the school district. And so there's a lot that we can, if we truly see ourselves as pre-K to college and career, a continuum, we really need to look at Green River. Our kids are their kids. And so we need to see what they're doing and not duplicate a lot of these efforts. So they're very willing to work with us and have some sort of a smooth transition plan for our kids. So let's see, then I was able to go to the Kiwanis essay contest for our middle schoolers. It's always a very inspirational afternoon, and hear a lot of stories of strife, and really proud of our kids, you know, all the things that they go through, and their essays are made a lot of the folks in the room cry. So just want to give a shout out to all our teachers, particularly at Northwood, and I think Cedar Heights was really well represented, and like to see all the other schools. I'm not quite sure why they weren't represented there, but finally, let's see, I attended a Kent Cultural Diversity Initiative group, which has been going on for many, many years at the City of Kent, and that's where a lot of our new arrivals and our immigrant nonprofit groups come together to share resources. And it's not just immigrant and refugee services, but it's really underserved communities. They want to share all of the resources that they have, but they also want to understand how can we collaborate better within different institutions. And so one of the things we talked about, we had service clubs who were represented there from the Kiwanis and the Rotary. One of the things we talked about is how can we partner together on a project between King County, the service clubs, our city and our school districts. What can we do together for this community? And a thought we entertained was, can we come together and put a middle school soccer field down in the valley somewhere? The kids have really nothing to do down in the valley. And so as some of you know, the service clubs have done a ball club up by Horizon, and that's being used, but it's not soccer. And the kids in the valley are all looking for a soccer field. So this is something that the King County has said there's a grant that's available so that we can work on it with them, and they would be very happy if South King County applied for that. So that was a great meeting, and just came away energized that there's potential that we could have a soccer field in the valley again for our kids. So.
Thank you. Russ?
Why do you always make me follow Maya?
Sorry, I went on.
I request that next time I do not follow Maya.
Okay. So noted.
But that said, so, you know, Maya and I actually met in the last couple of weeks, and I'd really encourage us to, I'd really want to start meeting individually with my fellow board members. I think we could be a lot more effective if we continue to discuss issues outside of having an hour and a half. But I really would like, especially as the budget season's starting to really ramp up, not just with me, but with each other. I mean, again, I'd strongly encourage us to have individual conversations, and maybe those are happening, but I'd like to reach out to you guys and start having those conversations again. I attended an orchestra concert, which was absolutely phenomenal. And I know it's phenomenal because myself and well, my kid was in it. But the other parents were like, wait, it's over? We want more. And that's always a great sermon, a great board meeting is, wait, it's over already? So I was very impressed. It was a great improvement from the years past. So it was held at KM, and it included high school, middle school, elementary, probably a couple hundred kids, extremely well organized. I love it when the parents actually help pick up the chairs, just besides those that want to make a good impression on the public. But it was really, really nice to be part of that. Are you going to update on the superintendent search? Okay. I'm not going to NSBA, so I will go to the Golden Steer.
Oh, good.
And I definitely plan on going to the WASDA regional meeting because it was really, really good the last time I went, when it was way out in Enumclaw. And I'm also going to have to ask for an excused absence because after 127 hockey games, my wife and I go somewhere warm to celebrate the survival of that, and I'll be in Vegas.
On which?
The 25th.
Okay, the
meeting.
next board meeting. Okay,
Yeah,
just
so
wanted to make sure what meeting.
I will not call in because I will have been up for 48 hours.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so I do have a question if you don't cover it. Actually, I do have a question about the superintendent meeting, the superintendent search, and I want to just ask it before I forget. We were supposed to get names, I think, of everybody that applied, and we didn't. So I'd like to.
Yeah,
get
I think
that
he
list.
had them there, so I can ask.
Yeah.
him, so.
Okay. If we could get that list of all the individuals that
I
applied.
think he could bring it on our next one because I know
Whatever.
they can't send that out, but they can hand it to
Okay,
us
that's
to
fine.
look at.
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you. So just a couple of things again on the legislative. It was great. One of the things that was fun is we had a couple of the students who actually registered to vote on that day. So they learned about the importance of voting and to see their excitement when they went into the Secretary of State's office to get their voter registration. And one of the other meetings that we talked to was we had some lobbyists that were actually students from the colleges, and they went in and talked to those lobbyists about how to be involved citizens and the different things about that, and they gave some suggestions even of how could we bring this down to our high school levels or even lower to help our students become more involved in government, which was really great. And I made a great big mental note to myself that if you really want time with our people in Olympia, bring students, because all the times in the past when I've gone down there, it's, you know, might be walking from one place to the other and you may get their attention for a few minutes. You brought students and people came off the floor to talk to us. People came and sat and talked to us. We also had an opportunity for the students. The session was going, so we actually sat in the galley and watched. And that's always interesting. I'm always amazed of what things are happening when there's things happening. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. So it was a great day, and I did appreciate all the time, and the students were very well represented of our district. So just, it was already mentioned NSBA, so I'm going to encourage those of us who are going to start looking at and having some idea of when we get there, and hopefully, Kathy, could you help orchestrate so we know when everybody's coming in, just so we can arrange our schedules as well? That would be great. And so on the superintendent updates, so the board met Friday night for a very long meeting to go over the applications and the recommendations. So we were given 11 applicants that had been fully vetted through the process, all good applicants. We spent time going through a process of narrowing that down. Our next step will be on this Saturday. We will be meeting to do in-person interviews with 5 of those semifinalists. On Monday, you will expect to see an announcement of who we have come up with as our finalists for the superintendent position. And then, as you're well aware, it's been all over the district website, so thank you, I appreciate that. We will have our community forums and additional meetings for those finalists to meet with different people in the district office. The board will also be conducting final interviews with those finalists on the 18th, and then on the 19th, the board will get together to deliberate and to hopefully reach consensus on who our new superintendent will be, and then we'll make that public announcement on our March 25th board meeting. So we're very excited. Again, great applicants, and it was a really good process, so we're excited to be able to bring you more information. So, so those are the next steps on the superintendent update. And I had something else, but I cannot remember what it was, and I didn't write it down. My fault. Other than being a grandma's great. So,
well, I would just add. I mean, you guys need to know it was from 4 p.m. to 11:30 at night.
Yeah,
so
it was a long meeting.
We really didn't have time to see those other candidates.
So, all right. So with that, we will adjourn. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight, and please drive safely.